What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. Hope you all are having a great NFL wild card weekend. Guys, we're going to just talk a little bit here about some stuff here about the Indianapolis Colts and, kind of discuss a little bit about what went down, why the Indianapolis Colts had such a down year. But thank you all so much for tuning in. So I know this is a little bit of a spur of the moment stream, but we'll just be on here for just a little bit. Won't be too long, but do appreciate you guys hopping in here right now. Please be sure to like the stream, guys, wherever you're watching. Please be sure to comment in the comment section. Please be sure to subscribe if you guys haven't already. I'm actually about to work on something here real quick before this gets going too much. Hopefully everybody is enjoying themselves. But shout out to BetUS for powering today's stream. If you're looking for a sportsbook this year, look no further than BetUS. What's going on, everybody? What's up, Michigan Wolverines? How you doing, man? Appreciate you. Yeah, my Buckeyes are going to the Natty, baby. Love it. What's going on, everybody? So wanted to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why the Indianapolis Colts had such a down year this year in comparisons to what we were expecting this year. Give me 1 second. I'm actually going to do this. Real quick, just so that way I can. I'm going to just fix this up, guys, and then have it up here shortly. How does everybody feel about the most recent games? I got to imagine everybody's kind of like, dang. I mean, there's some blowouts in these first few wild card ones. They were close early, and then well, except for the Ravens one. The Ravens one was a blowout almost a blowout within the first half. The Chargers and Texans, and then the Bills and the Broncos, that was close. They were close in the first half, and then in the second half, the Texans and the Bills just took over. All right. Here we go. That's better. What up, Big J? How's it going, everybody? So number one, when we're talking about this unit and everything that's happened with the Indianapolis Colts this year, there was a few things that kept us from being able to make the jump, right? And number one, that was the lack of additional talent added to the roster from the 2023 offseason to the 2024 offseason. We heard all last offseason, right? The Indianapolis Colts, we were running it back, basically. We're running it back. We like our guys. We feel confident that the Indianapolis Colts were going to be able to take that jump, right, with the guys that they had, because Ballard's philosophy was, I'm going to pay the guys that we have here. We were this close to the playoffs. If our quarterback situation would have been better, and maybe if we had one or two more guys there, then maybe it would have gotten better for us. But we didn't do anything to add it. So we just re-signed most of our guys. And really the only two additional free agents that you got were a backup quarterback who was about to be 40 and a backup defensive tackle You didn't do anything else in the area after that. And then when you talk about the draft, sure, you brought in some rookies who a couple of them, were able to step up for the Colts in some big ways this year, mainly Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonsalves. But you got very little production from Adonai Mitchell this year at wide receiver. And, Laiatu Latu, who showed you glimpses, but he did not really do a whole lot more to make himself better amongst that group. So you look back at just everything that accumulated, and Ballard even said it in his end of the year presser. That was the wrong approach. It was the wrong approach. I thought that this team was going to take the jump, and I thought that rewarding our guys was going to make them want to fight harder for this next season. And it turns out it didn't, right? And it resulted in a few more issues, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But that was the first real big problem with the Indianapolis Colts, is you assumed that your team was good enough to make it, even though it didn't make it the year prior. And you thought that with the addition of your quarterback, and you thought your second year, 21-year-old, 22-year-old quarterback was going to immediately make you better. And we're going to talk about that here next. But it was a very bad move. It was a very bad move for the Indianapolis Colts to have not brought in more competition, had not brought in some guys that could actually take over spots for the Indianapolis Colts. And that's pretty much that's the first beginning of that. And then, of course, like I said, number one was the lack of additional talent. You booked it on Anthony Richardson getting better, and that results in number two, QB issues. Man, y'all need to, fam, nobody be saying go Irish in here. Nah, get out of here. But yeah, number two, talking about QB issues. Now, that was one of the biggest problems that we had as a fan base all season, right? Was talking about, we hoped that Anthony Richardson was going to look very similar to what he did in 2023, but Anthony Richardson did not. Anthony Richardson looked very unlike what we would have expected, especially early in the year. The completion percentages were terrible. I mean, he was completing 45% of his passes. And in some games, it wasn't even that. So, there were games where you looked at it and you're like, this dude can't hit the broadside of a barn. Like, we keep talking about his arm. We keep talking about his ability to run, but we didn't see any kind of consistency from Anthony Richardson. And then, of course, the whole thing happened with, taking himself out for a play, and then the Colts saying that he was getting benched because he didn't know how to be a professional at the position. And then Joe Flacco comes in, who had a couple of decent games against some teams when Anthony Richardson got hurt the first time. And then when Anthony Richardson got benched, Joe Flacco looked terrible. We lost 2 games against some really good opponents where the Indianapolis Colts had a lot of opportunities to win those games, but you lost those. And then Anthony Richardson comes back, looks a lot better, still had a lot of issues with consistency in throwing, but did start to look a little better, more like the quarterback that we thought he might be this season. But it didn't work out. And of course, Anthony Richardson started slipping again. And then on top of it, ended up having another injury at the end of the year, which kept him out of the final 2 games where the Indianapolis Colts just ultimately didn't figure it out. So QB issues were a tremendously bad group. And now we have a situation where the Indianapolis Colts need to think about bringing in competition for the QB room, as Ballard has said now. And, that's very shocking given, the situation that you thought you would be in before. But now there's just nothing else to really speak on with that matter. And again, guys, there's a lot more things that can go into this. There's a lot more things. I'm just going into broad overall perspective of everything here. But number 3, and this was less of it, but number 3 was you had some injuries in multiple key areas, right? So on top of the fact that the Indianapolis Colts didn't bring in competition for a lot of these groups, right? You then had a situation where you had to had some major injuries early in the season. Juju Brents went out after the first game, didn't play at all the remainder of the season. I know he came back in the final game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but left that game too. So he played a grand total of maybe a game and a half, maybe. So that was supposed to be a guy you were looking forward to. You had DeForest Buckner. Go out for 5 weeks early in the season. You had Will Fries go out in week 5 against Jacksonville, and Will Fries was having a all-pro year prior to that injury. So that was definitely a big loss. Hey, Smokey Dabs, what's up, man? I'm doing good. So you had that. You had a couple more injuries along the defensive line. You had Tyquan Lewis go out. Kwity Paye was dealing with it, I think, a little bit. I can't remember everyone that had issues. Samson Ebukam, obviously, you lost him before the season started. So it was a lot of problems when it comes to the injuries and a lot of different fronts. And it certainly did not aid in helping the Indianapolis Colts, who were already in a bad situation when it came to that. So definitely a rough one for sure. But before we get into the remainder of these guys, just want to say again that this stream is powered by BetUS, guys. If you're looking for a sports book this year, look no further than BetUS. You guys can find a bunch of different ones here. They have stuff going on for a couple of different games. They have more than just NFL. They have NBA, college basketball, soccer, golf, baseball, anything that you guys can look for. They even have prop builders and odds boosts, and they do have live wagering on all these games. So be sure to check out BetUS, guys, and also make sure to check out their promo code YouTube150. Get a 150% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit, then a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits Just be sure to use that promo code YouTube150. But of course, guys, always bet responsibly. Yeah, so moving forward with this, we go to number 4. We had not many guys taking a big jump from 2023 to 2024. Remember, in specific groups, like mainly the tight end group and the cornerback group, the Indianapolis Colts wanted somebody to take a jump. Somebody wanted someone to take a jump, and they didn't. And that was a major issue for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, albeit Jalen Jones wasn't a terrible cornerback this year, but I mean, again, he's a 7th rounder right now, and he's an average cornerback at best for the Indianapolis Colts. Womack dropped off after a while. In his first few weeks, he was really good. It kind of dropped off a little bit throughout the season. Again, Juju Brents, we wanted to see something out of him. Kenny Moore, was pretty solid for the Indianapolis Colts this year, although I do think it could have been a little better for them there. Overall, it just felt like the Indianapolis Colts could have gotten better production out of the cornerback room. And heck, even after y'all keep talking about the defensive guy or draft guys. Yeah, Michigan Wolverines, I could see it. Don't worry, I'll have draft content coming for you guys at some point soon. Just mainly talking about this right now. But yeah, in the quarterback room, it didn't really seem to do much for him. Even in the safety room, like I know Blackman was hurt this last year, but he had a lot of injuries and also had a situation where, he had a lot of missed tackles this year. He just wasn't quite the same guy. I know he had a couple turnovers this year that he forced, but at the same time, you can't just have, 4 or 5 turnovers and at the same time say, I missed 20 tackles this year and sit there and say that, it worked out for you. It didn't. The Indianapolis Colts had a multitude of different guys that had missed a lot of tackles this year. And the tight end room for the Indianapolis Colts, I think they said this season was the most underutilized tight end room in all of the NFL. It is bad, man. I mean, we got no production out of our tight ends. None. And sure, that had something to do with the quarterback play, no doubt. But at the same time, you didn't have a difference maker at tight end. You didn't have one. Jelani Woods, who a lot of us thought was going to, take over this season and was going to be the guy that's going to just go insane. He never got on the field. He got hurt before his season even started. Mo Ali Cox continued to be primarily just a blocking tight end. Kylan Granson had so many drops, I couldn't even think straight as to how many. And then Ogletree, very rarely gets the opportunities. And when he does, it just doesn't feel like they're great opportunities. Will Mallory never sees the field. He was a healthy scratch for a lot of weeks. And so we sit here and we're like, that was another group that Chris Ballard said he liked. And we have to find a guy that is going to, make a difference in that tight end room. We just have to. And who knows? I mean, Tyler Warren could be that guy. Harold Fannin Jr. could be that guy. There's a lot of different tight ends. This is a insanely good tight end room in the draft this year. And the Indianapolis Colts would be stupid to not get a tight end in the first few rounds of the draft. They'd be stupid if they didn't. Anyways, so that was number 4. We go into the number 5, and this is the one of the probably the biggest reason. Yeah, locker room culture issues and distractions. um, so that was a big aspect to this, and it became apparent after the week. I think it was week 12. Yeah, I think it was week 12 when we lost that game. I can't remember if it was to the Vikings or the Bills. I can't remember. Um, but obviously it came out. Kenny Moore was talking about how some guys, they're not coming in doing all the work. And then, that came into, oh man, when have we heard this before? We heard this back in 2022 when Colts players were saying the exact same thing, right? And then we talked about then you saw just a few weeks later that, Pat McAfee and Zaire Franklin were having some beef back and forth with each other, and everybody, and then Pat was talking about how trash the Colts organization is and how it doesn't produce winning teams now as compared to what it did 10 years ago. And now, I mean, that's obvious at this point that that's right. And then that became an issue with Zaire and his podcast, and then Zaire with his beef with McAfee, and then Buckner at the end of the year repeating all of this stuff, saying that, yeah, there's egos getting in the way, and there's complacency in there, and like nobody else is really putting in the effort to do anything to try to make this team better, and that starts from a lot of different things. And of course, also when you talk about the locker room culture issues as well, we're talking about Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, when he did that thing, Buckner, talked to him and said, like, I signed a contract extension here because I believe in you. This is not what I expected from you. But then again, like, we've been talking about it, so much over the last few weeks, and that was like with what McAfee said throughout the year was, hey, how is Anthony Richardson supposed to get better if no one in the building is holding any kind of standard for the rest of the building? There is no vision here. So if there's no vision and there's no standard and all this other stuff, then and you got guys that are missing meetings, guys that are not taking this stuff seriously, not putting in the extra work, then how are you expected to win football games if you're not going to do what it takes to become a really good football team? And that was the issue that we had for the majority of the year. And it's going to continue to happen unless everyone in the building starts taking a real hard look in the mirror and actually says that they're going to go out and put in extra effort to win these games. Because as of right now, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen right now. I mean, this is as divisive of a locker room as I've ever seen it. You got guys, and then you got a guy who's saying it anonymously how this team has no vision, right? So they didn't even come out with themselves and say it. They just said it behind closed doors to people, right? It's gonna be, and guys, we mentioned this so much from Ballard's presser and everything else. We are not gonna believe that there's a culture shift. We're not going to believe that things are changing. We're not going to believe that guys are going to get better until we actually see it. And we haven't seen it so far. And, Ballard said, even Ballard said it, that like, hey, we're not good enough. Hey, we're needing to change. And I'm glad that you said it. I'm just saying, like, you're already on the hottest of hot seats, so it's going to be interesting to see how this unit works given, everything that's going on. So, hopefully we have a situation where, some leaders, end up actually figuring it out. But that's a really tough part about it. And then of course, when we're talking about coaching this year, coaching was another huge issue for this team this year. I mean, you guys know it. Did you guys see Anthony was late to a team meeting? I don't know if it was Anthony or not that missed the team meeting. Was it? I don't 100% know that. I just know a guy or two missed a meeting or was late for a meeting. I don't remember who it was. But anyways, as far as the rest of this goes, yeah, coaching this year wasn't good, man. It just wasn't good. Obviously, Gus Bradley was fired for that exact reason. You had a bottom tier defense. And, again, this is a defense that 2 years ago was a fringe top 10 defense. Now, I get it. There was quite a few changes that have happened for this team since then. But a lot of your core guys are still there, right? DeForest Buckner's still there. Grover Stewart's still there. Kwity Paye is still there. Zaire Franklin's still there. EJ Speed is just now coming into the picture. Bobby Okereke, I believe, was still there at that time. But Kenny Moore was still there. Julian Blackmon was still there. So like that's there's a lot of different changes that have happened, but I mean, goodness gracious, you had a good chunk of your core defensive guys are still there from when they were in 2022 versus now. And your defense has gotten astronomically worse because people have figured out your scheme. We don't have enough talent in the areas that are needed to run that scheme. And we just weren't aggressive enough. And I mean, you can't have a defense that is bottom 10 in points per game. You can't have a team that is bottom 5 in rushing yards per game and bottom 10 in passing yards per game. You can't do that. So it's just going to continue to be an issue. Obviously the defense needs a major overhaul. You need more cornerbacks. You need more defensive linemen. You need new linebackers that can play in coverage. Yeah, it just needs to get a whole heck of a lot better on the defense. And then as far as the offense goes, the problem has been for the offense mainly is the quarterback issue. That was the main problem because the Colts were able to run the football particularly well this year. Jonathan Taylor did miss a few games this year, yes. But when Jonathan Taylor was healthy, he was very good. He was very good. Alec Pierce had a surge for the year. It's too bad that the Colts don't get him involved more. And the offensive line, for as many different changes as it has had this year, with Ryan Kelly going out seemingly every week, Will Fries getting injured early in the year and never coming back, Braden Smith having that personal matter, which I still have no idea what it's about, but certainly hoping that Braden Smith is okay. But we had to miss out on him for quite a bit at the end of the year. Bernard Ryman had to miss a few weeks because of a concussion. Felt like the only guy that we never really missed was Quentin Nelson. So you had to move so many different guys. And despite all that, the offensive line wasn't terrible this year. They were certainly not their best form, but that's typically going to happen when you have about 10 or 12 different combinations. So that stuff happens. But outside of that, well, and Josh Downs was a gift this year. Pittman had some issues this year, but then again, I think a lot of it also had to do with his injury earlier in the year and the quarterback issue. Like I said, tight end was a bad thing this year, but listen, the main aspect of this, and it's in part to why I said that Indianapolis's offense was so bad this year, was because, yes, Anthony Richardson was playing terrible for quite a while, but it also didn't feel like the game plan for the Indianapolis Colts offense was at a very good point. It didn't feel like we were putting together the best game plan for Anthony Richardson. Because remember, earlier in the year, we were having Anthony Richardson throw the football a ton early in the year. Remember those first 3 or 4 games, Anthony Richardson's passing ability was terrible. We weren't running the football very much with Anthony Richardson early in the year. And it was much more apparent after his benching that he was able to throw the football a lot more because he was more comfortable with the running aspect to the game. And then, of course, as well, I mentioned several times that, the Indianapolis Colts drops were terrible this year. Again, we didn't lead the league in drops during the year. We weren't even really close to the top, but the Indianapolis Colts threw the football a lot less than a lot of other teams did. So when you look at it from a percentage-wise, the amount of throws to the number of drops, the percentage, we were up there at the top 3. We were terrible at helping Anthony Richardson out. Numbers would have been so much better for Anthony Richardson this year if we could have had guys actually catching the football. And how does that come down? I have no idea, but it just wasn't good from a lot of different angles, and coaching had something to do with it. They did. Especially since, for optics purposes too, that's also another reason why it looked worse on Shane this year, because everybody knows Shane was terrible this year with the optics. So it wasn't fun for us guys. That was terrible to keep an eye out for. So for me, guys, that's 6 reasons why, for me, the Indianapolis Colts had things that went wrong this season. Certainly hoping that things will get better in 2025. One can only hope. We're going to just not keep an eye out for it. We're going to see, if guys step up. We're going to see if guys get better. We're going to see if we get some better talent in here. We'll have to see, guys. But that's going to do it for this one. Again, guys, shout out to BetUS for powering today's stream. Let me know what you guys think over here. Also, guys, be sure to check out the Bring the Juice Reacts channel over on YouTube. Let me just actually pull it up for you guys and see if we can. So make sure you guys head over. I'm actually going to show you guys what I'm talking about here. Go over and subscribe to this. the Bring the Juice reaction channel. We're less than 40 subs away from 2,000 subscribers over here. We do reaction videos for big news, some live streams for like breaking news and, you know, things that are being reported about the Colts. So we're really trying to get this channel blown up as well. So make sure you guys check that out as well. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate you guys. And as always, guys, go Colts.